hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome back to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. You know, Mike, 400 episodes. I never get tired of saying that. As you heard there at home, it's Mike Bonelli with Elias here today. Krista Cash and Burns literally on assignment. She's a news lady. That's her real job. She is doing the news this morning. So Mike and I got together and we decided on a topic that we think is pretty pertinent actually for this time of the year. We're recording this in the summer, but this is one of those episodes that year-round can be good. But we'd love to make sure that the content in the summer really does have an impact. It does something. I'm doing my little thing with the papers, the news thing. Today's topic, Mike, what does USA Hockey really teach their coaches? We're going to go through the USA Hockey Coaching Education Program, levels 1 through 5, give kind of an overview of what we do at each level, why we do it. It's an important discussion because I think, A lot of people don't know what USA Hockey is teaching the coaches. B, I think sometimes the expectations of parents of what we teach coaches is a little bit too high in terms of what we should be able to do and what we need to be able to do. But it really all starts out with this, Mike, is that, you know, when it comes to the CEP, the Coaching Education Program, USA Hockey is not trying to create professional, high-level super coaches that can coach in World Junior Championships and professional leagues. They're trying to create youth hockey coaches. And you really got to bring it back when you think about what are we teaching. Now, again, every coach, every youth coach in the United States must go through this program. It's a requirement. It's all about age-appropriate training. It's athlete-centered coaching with long-term development in mind. And it also, as you will find, encourages, continuing education for coaches. It's a pretty robust program, and it's an important program no matter what your skill level is. If you're brand new to hockey and you're a dad or mom that is just trying to volunteer, or you are someone like me who has coached professionally, you still need to go through this program. There's still value in it. But, Mike, we're creating youth hockey coaches in the United States. Again, as I introduced you, Mike, just so people know, Mike's been doing this for a long time. He's been doing it for about 10 years plus. He's one of the teachers. He's one of the instructors. He is literally the best guest you could probably have here today for this episode. Mike, let me pass you the puck.
Not the best, but we did have a big region. I mean, I used to run the, basically our East District of New York, which is, we probably have 2,000 or 3,000 coaches come through the program per season. So it's a large large piece of the organization. And I think, more so than teaching coaches how to coach, it's more about teaching how we have to understand people learn. And I think as coaches, we want to understand, like, how do people learn and how can I present material that the kids can take in, as opposed to, can I just, I played hockey. I know how to run a power play. I know how to run a penalty kill. That's my expertise. So I don't think it's about, becoming expert coaching as it becomes, how do you actually teach the kids that you're working with the most efficiently and to keep them in the game the longest. And I think that's where, certainly USA Hockey's philosophy on this has changed quite a bit from when I started, where I remember we used to get binders and binders of drills and lesson plans. And this is how you run a lesson. Where now that's only a very small component of the coaching education program. It really is more about how do kids learn, how do you teach. There's more involvement with physical education teachers and education professionals. Most of us, 90% of the coaches aren't education professionals, or plumbers and electricians and accountants and podcasters. And, they don't have that expertise in the background to help. So this is really a great way. I call it almost like if you're going to coach in youth hockey in the United States, it's a great way to find your baseline. It's just a good way that everyone can start on a base idea. And then just like anything else, you're going to take that piece of that education and run with it from where you are motivated to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the goal of the episode today, what we're going to do is we're going to actually go through each level of coaching, kind of tell you what it is there for, what does it exist for, maybe some of the benchmarks that you'll leave with and what you're looking forward to, like what are we going to be building towards as a coach, right? And again, depending on your level of coaching, this can be very fresh, brand new knowledge. You could be coming in with a lot of X and O knowledge. I can tell you this too, that sometimes this can be a groaner for coaches of, I don't want to do that. How you go into it is how you get information out of it. Go in with an open mind, go in ready to learn. There's something at every level of the CEP for you to learn. Okay. But you got to be realistic about why you're there, what we're teaching, and who we're teaching. Right. So let's just start with level one. So the breakdown here is level one can be taken, and then you can hold on to that for a while if you're doing certain age groups. Level two, level three, level four have to be taken in consecutive years before opening you up to the level five coaching symposium, which they do every other year, right? But let's dive in with level one. This is basically coaching 101 for most new coaches. The audience is going to be 8U coaches, first time coaches, or someone who just needs to get their coaching certification moving forward. And what you're going to learn in level one is, like Mike said, the importance of creating fun, having an engaging atmosphere, obviously some basic safety and equipment basics, age appropriate feedback. That's one I know a lot of new coaches need to get, of how do you talk to an 8-year-old? How do you talk to a 6-year-old? It's not the same thing as talking to a 22-year-old. Obviously, how to deal with parents and communicate expectations. They're also going to introduce you to the ADM, okay, which is the development model for all USA Hockey players, which has been proven to be very, very successful, as USA Hockey has pretty much swept the field in international events this year that we're recording this. But again, I think the goal, Mike, for level one is we really want you to be able to walk away from this being able to run a small area game, being understanding of how to speak to athletes and how to teach very basic skills, which I'm going to tell you, coaches and parents, it's not as easy as you think. I remember one of the questions I was asked, as someone who has coached at the high level, is can you please break down how to do a hockey stride? They just ask that question that way. And you go, oh, yeah, I can tell you how to do that. And as soon as you try and start doing it, you realize, wow, this is actually not as easy as you think. You have to think about bending at the hip, bending at the knee, bending at the ankle, the optimal stride place. Then you got to talk about someone who's never done this before. It's actually not as easy as you think. And that's the fundamental starting point before you start teaching things like stick handling and shooting and systems. So, Mike, level one, again, it is literally elementary in many different ways, but it's a good stepping point. At least turn your brain on of, hey, we don't all know everything. There's something here to learn.
Right. So even new coaches that have played at high levels, or maybe there's a lot of coaches that have coached. I've had coaches in my classes that have coached 20 years of high school hockey, and all of a sudden they have a grandkid or a kid, and they want to coach mites, and they have to do their certification. Like, I just did 20 years of high school coaching. I never had to do this. Right, but it's just a way for you to come into the room, understand, and be a value actually to the room and to your group, and to use your vast experience in life to help now break this back down to a 6 and 7 year old, to understand that, listen, it's all about interacting with the kids, creating age appropriate lesson plans, age appropriate skill development. We've actually had a recent podcast on what skills you need to have at certain ages. That's a big component of the CEP. It's you have to crawl before you can walk, and I think this is this level one uh, allows you. I almost wish they didn't call it level one. I wish they just name it something, because it does incorporate everyone, whether you're a first time coach or somebody that's coached for years and years. All of the pieces in there can benefit anyone at any level, starting wherever they may be.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I'm going to say it again, Mike, that you kind of get out of these things what you put into them. If you go in with a closed mindset, you're going to have a hard time in these courses. If you go in with an open mindset, they really do fly by. But again, for the parents listening, all we're trying to teach coaches in level one is creating structure out of the chaos, right? 8U hockey, 6U hockey is chaos. We really just want to get the kids moving. It's about basics, how to keep a kid moving, how to get a kid to touch a puck, how to keep them smiling, right? And then basic team management. It is an introduction to USA hockey coaching. And Mike, maybe that's the better name for it, is just how to coach the chaos for AUs. Because I said, most experienced coaches getting into this probably have a kid starting in hockey and starting to understand it. So again, much like we talked about in the other episode you mentioned, 8U coaching, level one coaching, the basics, right? And understanding the basics. There's always something to learn there, all right? Now, as you move on to level two, we're going to start developing a little bit more in terms of not just being able to observe and watch a drill, a small area drill, but really start to run drills, right? So when we get into level two, we're starting to look about how progression-based learning starts to play into this, right? Of we're teaching a skill, now we want to progress that skill. One of the big mistakes we see a lot of coaches make, Mike, is they do one practice on one skill, then they move on to the next thing. When in reality, it's okay to do 4 or 5 or 6 practices based on one skill set and develop, right? So in ability that, we want to also teach beyond the basics, right? Edge control now, passing, positioning, managing energy, games, positive behavioral enforcement. I remember that being a big part of level 2 was not just the hockey, but the mindset of a child and how to keep kids in hockey. That we don't want kids to burn out when they're 15 years old. But level 2 it is a little bit of a big step up. Like I said it before, level 2, 3, and 4 really do work in tandem. That's why you have to do them in consecutive years. But I think at the end of this one, Mike, the idea is you can run drills, right? Not just a small area drill. You're not just there to kind of be an assistant. You can run drills. You can create a practice plan. You're starting to create that in-game feel with your drills, and then again, continue to communicate effectively with parents and people before and after games. A big section on that is how to just communicate with your team, right? So getting to your point before the episode of this is going a little bit beyond X's and O's still.
Yeah, it's the building blocks of coaching, right? It's really now where you're not just babysitting and you're not just kind of herding cats, but now you're getting into the area of, now you got to start teaching concepts, not craziness. Like that's you look at like the way they lay out the percentages of what you should be working with. I mean, it's basically less than 10% is systems and things like that. Like it's a very
Yeah.
minuscule amount.
We didn't do any
It's really
systems
more
level 2,
about
just to your point.
right. Right. It's just kind of a brush over of, hey, if you're going to introduce this, introduce it in a fun way, in a game, in some kind of a activity where it's constraint based learning rather than telling the kids you must go here. I mean, when I grew up, it's like, okay, you're a right winger. Do not ever go over. If you went over the center line, you get sat for a period. I mean, like you stay on your wing. You're up and down the wing. You're on the wing. Don't cross over. No crossing. No crossing at the blue line. So it's just evolved so much, and that's what I think I love about the coaching education program. Not so much for coaches now, but when we started doing this, there was there was a vast. I mean, people forget that in the early 2000s, I mean, hockey was still being played like it was since 1960. I mean, it was like there was no, like, it really hadn't evolved. This positionless play idea and this idea that athletes are interchangeable in zones, and that you can be creative, and the puck doesn't always have to get deep, to be successful, or glassing out, doesn't even get talked about anymore in the coaching education program. So, just a matter of going into it and your philosophy of how has the game evolved. But at level 2, there really then at least there becomes a component of the structure of hockey, and how, again, the best thing you can have is if you have physical education teachers in your classes. Those are always the best ones to have, because they're going to tell you, I would never do this in my physical education class, and you can't do this on a 200 foot sheet of ice either.
Yeah, what I find funny is that, again, you have to go into these coaching education program classes and almost forget everything you know about the game. Like, there is a point where your knowledge of the game will play into this, but there's a reason they're not teaching us that, right? It's because you already seem to have that, right? So again, when you look at level 2 as opposed to level 1, basic skills, organizing the chaos, running a small area drill. Level 2, now we're starting to see a little bit more of the game, of how players interact with each other, how those basic skills develop into a play, not a system, a play. Now the passing and the skating can start to work on what does a basic breakout start to look at. This is level 2. Now when you get to level 3, okay, and the audience for level 3 is now you're starting to see the 10U coaches, the 12U coaches come in, because again, most coaches are progressing with the kids that are in the levels that they're coaching. Now we're starting to see deeper skill layering, right? Puck control, transition, offensive zone understanding, gap control. You start to understand these, and what I want you to understand for everybody listening is you almost have to think of this as a singular level once again. What is gap control? What is puck control? Right? So now we can teach those skills and start to put them into a game environment. We're trying to teach the kids how to think a game. You're going to introduce in level 3, introduce D-zone coverage, forechecks. What does that look like now from a coaching standpoint? Practices versus game intensity. You might talk about special teams, but it's definitely not a focus in level 3, right? And then the idea now is building on the practice plan, right? You've done the small area drill. Now you've done the drill. Okay, now can we start looking at progression in drills over the course of 3 or 4 weeks and really putting together a plan for long term coaching, right? Also, they'll go over how to run a bench effectively. When you get to level 3, you're starting to deal with a little bit more of a teenage age, most likely. There's aspects of that. Also, at level 3 is when you start to learn how to teach kids how to pass versus when to skate and read plays, right? So now we're starting to see it mimic the game a little bit more. Again, you'll notice I didn't say for level 3 forechecks. Like we're not working on 1-2-2s, 2-1-2s, and understanding that and complex defensive zone coverages yet. Now we're starting to say, okay, let's take all of the skills we've taught and teach kids how to use them in a game in terms of utilizing the skills in a game, right, Mike? Now, when you get to, we'll talk about level 4. Level 4 jumps on top of this as well, but level 3 really is a transitional level where it's less, okay, let's make sure they're in a line. Let's make sure we're using all the kids at once. You should never have them in a line, right? And
Yeah.
saying, okay, let's make this look like the game now. Although you want to make all drills look like that all the time, but from a coaching standpoint, we're teaching the game now.
Yeah, you're managing more. I mean, you're managing, and then introduction of, you can't just be a coach for the players. You have to be a coach for the goalies. It just managing,
Right.
staff and
Yes.
and having conversations around, how do you use managers and how do you structure your day, and then the biggest thing too is the introduction to really understanding communication and
Yeah.
the type of language you use, and I don't mean like swearing, but the way you approach a player and what you're asking them to do. You brought up the point earlier about teaching a skill. Just screaming and yelling down the ice doesn't do it anymore, right? You have to be more strategic about how are you teaching and how are you setting up your day. I love the fact that in that level 3 and 4, you're going to have so many coaches that are in the room that now have gone through like the pros and the cons. Like I love that, usually at the end, right, you always talk about like, what are some things you thought getting into coaching would be, and really what was the reality. And it's funny to
Right.
hear, some of the feedback you get. Like I thought I was going to be doing this, but actually I was doing this. Like me, like I'll give you an example. Like when I first became a hockey director, I was like, oh, I'm going to love being a hockey director. I get to teach, I get to do this, I get to do that. And I go, I'm really just doing payroll and admin stuff. Like I don't even get to go on the ice anymore. So it's like, sometimes as a head coach, you have to understand all the different things that go into it. And a big piece of that is that communication piece and learning how to manage a lot of different personalities and people, within a hockey season.
Yeah, and from a hockey standpoint, this is cool. I can bring this up now. When you get to level 3, the concepts that they teach you to teach the kids are, I'm gonna say it again, they're not as advanced as you think. I mean, they actually break it down to there's 4 types of play. There's defense without the puck, defense with the puck, offense with the puck, offense without the puck. And that's really a big eye opener for coaches because it simplifies the game and understanding that you have to teach those 4 bases before you can even think about what a system looks like in those spaces. So, level 3, Mike, as you said, you're there now because you want to be there, right? You're not just there because you have to be there so much. And it develops. There's also a good point kind of halfway through the episode to tell y'all the coaching program's not dislike school, right? When you're in school, you learn about, we'll just use the Revolutionary War in 4 different grades, and they build upon your education of the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, whatever you're learning about, right? So the coaching education program does that. Like I said, in the first level, very basic skills: how to skate, how to stride. Level 3, now we're teaching more advanced skills, but in the same methodology that they taught us to teach that skating. Now, when you move on to level 4, I'll say this is maybe if you're, an advanced hockey player, it gets pretty fun, okay? Because now you are learning about how to implement systems, right? Long-term player development is something that we talk about, obviously, coaching philosophies, but now we're getting into the advanced X's and O's. Um, you know, forechecks, back checks, neutral zones, power plays, special teams, how to use video as a tool to teach. All of this comes out in level 4. And what I really loved about level 4 is that, that in the class now, you're really starting to make drills, right? Obviously, we go through a lot of discussion in the earlier courses about mentality and philosophy. But what I noticed in level 4, there's a lot more. Hey, let's create a drill together, work together. Now share your drill with another coaching group, and you start to see how those philosophies work in. But also how to teach a system, how to teach what F1, F2, F3 really is at this point. I really enjoyed that. And again, I'm going to say it again: the power of video. All right, and how video can be a great teacher for coaches. But by the end of level 4, you're going to be able to plan a whole season now of practices or really understand how progression in practice matters, how to put your foot on the accelerator or the decelerator is a big one. Another big one is how to work and create drills or use USA hockey drills to add more players in, take more players out, add different aspects to really make your drills look like the game. That's something they press on you from the start is you want your practices to look like the game. You don't want to be practicing something that's excluding kids or that's just such a small skill that it's not going to really affect, right? So when you leave this, you're going to leave with a pretty robust coaching, um, mindset of, wow, I never thought about that. I'm going to create this season. I mean, if you're level 4, I'll say it like this, parents, a level 4 coach should not be winging practice. They should come with a practice. They should have it probably sent to you before practice, putting it up on the wall at practice. It's prepared now, right? It's prepared. And you're ready for level 5 at that point. But Mike, yeah, level 4 is a really great one. Also, but Mike, before you go, I should say this too. Parents, level 4 coaches are required to actually do additional coaching courses throughout the year to maintain their level 4. So a level 4 certification you can maintain for a few years before jumping to level 5. But there's continued education modules that level 4 coaches have to do. The goaltending program, I've done that, is a great example of that. The coaches site symposium that they do is a continuing education point. So you have to maintain it. So if you get to level 4, you're in this now. You want your level 5 at that point. But Mike, again, level 4, really in depth. I really enjoyed level 4. Not that I didn't enjoy the other ones, but everyone there wants to be there. They're all coaching. They've all got several years of experience. It's a fun time.
Yeah, it's a real difference from like block training and block drills to constraint based learning and game activities. Like now you're playing, now you're moving, now you're they talk about coaching. You're coaching for the modern game. You're not coaching for your kids' success this year. You're coaching for their success in their career, and that's difficult for a new coach or any coach to look at. It's like, well, I'm really coaching this kid to be an 18-year-old, not so much a 12 and a 13-year-old. And so it is, but then they have, I think the like you just said, the pieces in when we're talking about the coaching education curriculum, like the actual class, the hours you're in there, you're in with a lot of people. Again, you're going to have the ones that are putting the video on and making believe they're there and they're not interacting, but mostly it's the people that want, like they're like me. I was like a coaching geek, like a real sponge. Like I would go to the Roger Nilsson's clinic. I would go to the coach's site clinic. I would go to a level 4 symposium somewhere, even if I had my level 4. Like, so the coaching, the continuing education piece, I think is so important because it finally gives credit to the coaches that are doing it anyway. Like a coach that's seeking out more information. Now, at least you could get a little bit of credit for that so that you're not stressing about, A, not learning, and B, not progressing. I think the worst thing you could have is a coach that says, "Oh, I finally got my level 4 done. Phew, I don't need to learn anymore." And I think that's the scariest person, is the one that stops learning. And I think that's where when somebody like when you have a pro athlete come into the coaching education program and they've played for 25 years in NHL, and then all of a sudden they have to go do a level 1. The game is so different than when they played, and the teaching and the philosophy and the way everything goes. So to watch that progression now as you go through, for most people, you're getting your level 4 in like a 5-year window for most, right? So you get your level 1, you may be coaching AU hockey for 2 years or 3 years, and then you're doing 2 and 3 and 4, you're progressing. And so the worst thing you could do is say, "Oh, I got my level 4. I'm going to wait as long as possible to do any kind of other continuing education." So I think the way it's structured now, it forces you to do it, but it also enables you to go out and seek the courses you want to take and you're interested in, rather than the ones that somebody's mandating to you.
Yeah, well, I can tell you too that after level 4, you want to go to level 5. You want to go to the next level because level 5 is a different monster. Level 5 is the coaching symposium. It's in person. I should have said this earlier in the episode,
Yeah.
but levels 1 through 4, most of them all can be done via Zoom, uh, uh, remotely in your home. Some territories still do an in-person version of it, but these are very, there's no travel. You can do them in your house. Mike, I did want to say on this too because you mentioned this that they do a really good job of making sure that you're not someplace that you're not supposed to be. There's constant check-ins. There's constant breakout rooms. You have to have your camera on during the Zoom sessions. If they even think that you're not paying attention, they'll call on you. They're pretty good about that. Also, the rules
Yeah.
are you can. My favorite ones: you can't be doing this in a car. You can't be driving while you're doing it. My favorite one was you cannot be on a bench coaching while you do it, which apparently has happened. All right.
Yeah.
So they do a really good job. Um, so look, as we move on to level 5 is the USA Hockey Coaching Symposium. This is in person. It's over the course of several days. They build it up. It's every other year that they do it, at least right now. And Mike, I'm going to let you actually talk about this one a little bit too, because in addition to it being in person, obviously there's some guest speakers. There's also a project or a thesis that you need to do at the end of this one. I'm bringing this up because I haven't done it yet. I'm still level 4, ready to go to level 5. So I'd actually love for you to tell me what's going to be happening at level 5. Although I can tell you right now, I'm very excited about it. It looks like a really great event.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is about level 5 is it now becomes a coaching conference with people that want to be there and are eager to learn and kind of hone their trade, right? And the speakers that USA Hockey assembles, um, they have forums, they have roundtable discussions. You have it's not just all lecture; it's a lot of breakout rooms, and you can learn off ice training techniques, and you're interacting with some of the the nice thing what USA Hockey does is they bring the best educators in the world to you. Like so, they'll bring people from Finland in and Sweden in and Russia in and Canada, and the interaction between having out people outside the sport of hockey coming to teach and mental fitness and they do a really good job of putting you in a room or putting you in a place where you can then kind of take all this in at your own pace and then ask questions about your own age group. There's a lot of level 5 coaches that are coaching 10U hockey. They're in there and they're coaching 10U and like so they're not there to learn like the real intricacies of a breakout or a forecheck. It's really comes down to which is fun to hear, right? When you hear the interviews and the programs going on and the seminars, these pro coaches are coaching kids. Like they're coaching the same way they have the same frustrations and the same problems and the same constraints that you have as a coach. Trying to motivate an athlete, trying to get a person to play within the team, getting somebody to buy into a system or a philosophy. So and you get to hear all that. And I think the nicest thing too is I think the live presentation, I often said this about the coaches site and USA Hockey level 5s are the same. The real learning and the best part happens in the hallway. It happens at the cocktail party. It happens at the breakfast. It's really when you really get to interact and meet so many different great people that you get to now probably stay in contact with for the rest of your coaching career. And, and it allows you to collaborate with the like-minded people as you. And I think in that setting, privately, like you're just in a hallway, it's amazing all the stuff that comes out of those.
Yeah, to your point, and look, you got me excited about it. Keeping in mind too, I've been coaching for 20 years, and the idea of going to this is still very exciting to me. But at every level of the CEP, the education program, Mike, you make a great point. You were required in front of your name on the Zoom to put what level you're coaching, and at every level I've done, there has been every level of coach, right? You're going to have 10U, 8U, all the way up to 18U. I mean, in the last one I was in, I saw some junior coaches. So there really is no age base on this. Again, if you just need to get a basic thing to get on the ice and that's all you want to do, that's what level 1 is. Okay. But as you progress through the CEP, you learn more. And I can say this too. Again, still before level 5. I can only imagine the amount of information in level 5 that's going to be fun. I'm a better coach because of the USA Hockey Coaching Education Program. All right. I have learned a lot. I have benefited from this. It's a good program, and the instructors really do a good job. Now, Mike, I do have to ask this for anybody who's level 4 or below. Everyone's going to want to know from a coaching standpoint. Tell me about this thesis project thing that you got to do. I'm sure it's not done at the symposium. It's probably a season-long thing. But tell me about that. There's like a little bit of this. Sounds like a master's a little bit. I had to do a thesis for my master's. I'm sure it's not that intricate, but what is the thesis project for level 5 coaches?
Yeah, you do have a small window. It's not a year, but you have a window to get it in. I think it's a couple of months, maybe a month, but it's really more. Your thesis is really it's a subject that you come up with. I think sometimes I think in the past they've said you have to do this. Like this is the only thing you can. Like when I did mine on growing a youth hockey program, and I just took that and I got a job. So I was able to, I said, okay, I'm going to take because I took my level 5 in Pittsburgh. Uh, Jesus, it's probably 1990, like say it's 1996 or something like that, whatever it was. But
It was in the
I've been to
1900s.
five,
Yeah.
I've been to 5 or 6 or 7 other level 5s now at this point, and Lake Placid in Vegas, and that there's a whole bunch of places you can go to take these things. Cape Cod, they're really great opportunities to do your own continuing education, and I think like for me. That's always been the funnest part is to hear other people's kind of what they've written and their thesis statements. But a lot of it is just you figuring out like, okay, I want to do a program on how I'm going to teach constraint-based learning, and how do you do that, or how will I approach having males and females on my team? How are you going to work with that? Like, how are you going to build that into how you teach? I'm going to work with the fact that I only get half ice for my entire year. How are you going to work with that? Like, how are you going to build lesson plans that incorporate that? And they get reviewed, they get looked at, there is feedback. But it's really for you to use as your own model to see, okay, what have I learned? What am I passionate about? And now what can I put out there that's going to help me? And often USA Hockey will see these things and like, well, that's a great idea. We'd love to take that idea and run with it and see, where we can go with this. So, there was a lot. I've talked to people that wrote full thesis statements on, the benefits of cross ice hockey and the benefits of cross ice, small area games all the way through junior hockey. Like it all depends on, your level of expertise. But I think to me, it's always about an opportunity for you. It's not a job. It's not like, oh God, I got to do this. It's really an opportunity to put something down that somebody's going to review, and something that you can actually kind of use for you to use. And it's if you're doing drills and you're building drills, and they say, hey, we want you to do a whole season lesson plan. Okay, well, what level you're coaching? How many kids do you have? What's the skill level? What region are you in? When the playoffs start? When is the break? Like, so you have to think about all those things, and you can't just throw a bunch of drills on. What's the progression? Where do I start with? Where do I end? Where do I want to go? How do I want to start? Who do I have? Who do I have helping me? Do I have other coaches? Is it just me alone? All these kind of things go in. It just helps you become a better coach. So if you're taking your level 5 and you're taking it in June or July, it's a great way to kick off the year and kind of build your syllabus of how you're going to run your team.
Yeah, well, look, I'm looking forward to it. And I'll say this too. When you think about actual real master's programs or really higher education, one of the benefits of thesis or projects is it's your opportunity to help advance the game. And I actually love that USA Hockey kind of does this, because you don't know what ideas are going to come from the coaches, and there's no better places to get ideas than from the coaches. So I imagine that USA Hockey actually does look at this stuff, like you said, not just to grade it, but to see maybe there's something here that can help evolve the game. The many minds is better than one mind. So I love that. My thesis, Mike, my project's going to be, I'm going to create a podcast about youth hockey for hockey parents, coaches, and players. I'm going to try and bring that to the table
Right.
and
You
say,
should.
hey, how about this idea? Yeah, we maybe I've been doing that over the last 4 years. No, I enjoy projects like this, but I'm also a nerd like that. But that's level 5. Level 5 really making you a level 5 coach, and obviously really allowing you to become a thought leader based on the USA Hockey ADM ideals. Again, the ADM has proven to be so successful with USA Hockey's advancement of players, but not just players, but coaches. And again, look, at the end of the day, gang, the CEP, coaching education program, levels 1 through 5, are to help you become a better community leader within the game of hockey. Okay. By the time you finish these 5 levels, I'm going to say it again, you should be a thought leader. You should be able to teach other coaches at this point. But most importantly, you're able to coach youth hockey. Okay. Youth hockey. The purpose of the program is not to make you a great skills coach. That's something you do on your own time. The purpose of the program is to teach you how to coach kids, right? How to manage expectations on the bench, right? So when a coach comes up to you, parents, and says, "Well, I'm level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5," don't allow that to be a judging point, right? They're on the progression. That's the point. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and just understand if you're in other sports, USA Hockey is the leader in building
Yeah.
educational models. USA Lacrosse literally just took the USA Hockey model and changed every word from hockey to lacrosse. Like, soccer, football finally is coming out with a curriculum. Like everybody is following what USA Hockey's done to invest the time and effort in changing the sport, and having our adults work with kids is literally changing the rest of the landscape for governing bodies of their sport. And it not so the fact that they've gone out and been a leader in this is great for all of us that don't maybe you don't have 45 years of coaching education experience. This gives you that. This gives you the tools. Whether again, if you're a first time coach, I love coaching. I'm a sponge. I want to know more. I want to. I
Yeah, me
want to
too.
progress on my own. If USA Hockey CEP didn't exist, I'd still be a level 5 coach. Like, I would still be pursuing the things I need to do to be a better coach. I'd be reading. I'd be watching video. I'd be going to seminars. I'd be going to conferences. But because we have this thing here for us, it enables you to do all those things, and everybody else did the work. You all have to pay your fee. You all pay your $65 USA Hockey fee. Use it. This is yours. You paid for it. Get all the information you can out of it, and leverage the fact that somebody else did all the work for you. Even if you want to do the bare minimum, this is going to help you be a better person on the bench.
Yeah, I love it, Mike. I think that's a great place to close the episode. Again, we wanted to give parents and coaches an idea of what happens in these courses, and want to say to you, like, they really are valuable courses. Again, I'm going to say this: you get out of it what you put in. If you go in with a closed mind, coaches, you're going to have a hard time. If you go in with a real open mind, you're going to learn something. Primarily, I always say too, they do a great job of teaching you the difference between teaching and training, right? If you're going into this course, there's a good chance you have some hockey knowledge. I know there's people who go in that are new to hockey. There's a good chance you have some background in hockey. You're going to learn something about teaching versus training. And I can say, as someone who's gone through at least 4 levels of it, I'm enjoying it. I mean, I don't. It's not a problem for me. I look forward to these courses. Of course, there's the scheduling. You got to find time to take it or find time to travel to the level
Right.
5 thing. But I enjoy it. And I'm going to say this again too: the continuing education aspect of it, I think, is a wonderful add-on to the entire thing. It's newer, but the goalie certification, the bronze, silver, gold, that has been brilliant, right? And it's not just for goalies. This is an important course for non-goalies, so you can learn how to incorporate goaltenders into your practice, which, believe it or not, is extremely important, right? And then there's other things too that you can take throughout the year. So the USA Hockey CEP coaching education program, based on the American development model, successful. I encourage it. I love it. Parents, I want you to know that the coaches that dive into this really are in good hands. Again, Mike has been doing it for a long time. He's seen it develop. It really is top notch in the way they do it. Mike, any final thoughts before I close it out?
Just if you're listening to this now, get on it. Get those dates. Secure your coaching education requirement. Know what they are. Don't wait until December 31st to
Yeah,
say
don't do that.
and then blame everyone else that you didn't do it. Like, I think the biggest problem here that we have is that in December, like, oh, you have to give me a waiver. I got to get in. You're going to hurt the kids. I'm not going to be allowed on the bench after this. Well, if you really did, and if you really don't want to hurt the kids, and you don't want to hurt the fact that you just worked 4 months to coach, now you can't be on the bench again, then do it now. I think you just said you did yours, and this is we're talking about June.
We're in June.
So
I
get
did
your
my level
coaching
4 in
education
June.
done. There's plenty of time in August and September and October. Take your day. Take your time. Block it off. If it means missing a practice on a Monday night to take a coaching education course, miss the practice. I mean, get it done. Don't wait until December to start scrambling looking for courses.
Well, and I'll add on to that. USA Hockey does plenty of courses throughout the summer, fall, and winter. And I'll say this too: with the remote accessibility to them, there's just no excuses. If you put it off, you put it off, my friends. But get it done. It's worth your time. And we should also say, Mike, that if you want to learn more about this, usahockey.com. Click on the coaches tab. There's all the information you need. And this last thing, parents, this education program is in addition to Safe Sport and other modules that are required by almost every organization and USA Hockey. So that's a separate kind of attitude in our background checks. That all comes separately. But CEP has really been a joy, Mike. And again, I love that we've done it. So we hope you gave you that. We hope we gave you a good overview here, right? What does USA Hockey really teach its coaches? Now, you know, we're not teaching advanced NHL systems. We're teaching basics of coaching and following that ADM. That's going to do it for this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Hope you learned something. For Mike Bonelli, I'm Elias. Remember, if you want to email us, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com. That email works wonderfully at this point. You can also text us via the link inside of the description with this episode. Make sure you tell us your name, where you're from. We love doing those episodes that you suggest. For Mike, once again, I'm Lee. We'll see you on the next episode, everybody. Have a great time. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.